Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas. Our ongoing study in the Cambridge Companion to Karl Barth. We're going to look at an essay on politics. We get to take a look at the very practical side of Barth's theology. We'll look at it in 3 moments. Let's begin by taking a look at Block 1. We're going to take a look at witness, responsibility, and protected space and time. The state is the provider of freedom for the church. The state is to clear space for evangelism by the church. The political community must exist in an analogous way alongside the Christian community, says Barth. It must provide provisional humanization for all citizens. And the state is to provide a parable-type witness for all citizens. Now the church, alongside with the political community, the church is to provide a political type witness by positing its meaning of peace, its deeper understanding of humanization. And so we end up with a triad, a kind of a preliminary triad of the state parable witness of humanization and the church political witness of peace, both combine to create the actualized, realized witness of responsible politics. This witness is then enjoined by free responsibility. Humanity is enabled to be free through the history of Christ, through the Klesis call of Christ, which we've studied before, but through the Klesis call of Christ, we are called to the doxa glory of the kingdom. Therefore, Barth says non-political Christianity is an impossibility for the believer. Non-political Christianity is an impossibility. Our responsibility will consist of the following 3 aspects. We will affirm the one word of Christ. We will negate false nationalisms, totalitarian nationalisms. We will practice free responsibility. We will oppose false state ideologies and affirm the exaltation of Christ as our true and real guide to political responsibility, which leads to the following positive affirmations. We affirm the concrete goodness of all humanity. All a priori ideologies are subjected to the prioritized word of Christ. The righteousness of God is posited as the substance of Christian responsible freedom. And therefore our summary statement in 3 looks like this. Witness and responsibility lead to protection, says Barth. There must be a negation of all cultural self-serving ways. The order of law is to secure the common political life, and that's through the support of a truly free, responsible membership. The political system is to create and preserve space for common political life, which will include space for the church's faith, repentance, and knowledge. And it will include providing the preservation of time for the church to proclaim the gospel. So the political community has a responsibility on the secular and on the Christian side to provide space and time for a common political life and for the theological life of a free church. So our theoretical triad looks like this. We have the first moment of witness, of humanization and peace, which are posited by the state and the church. We have the affirmation of the word of Christ, which is prioritized over all false nationalisms. Therefore, that will lead to a common political life, which must be preserved for all members of society and not just a preferred few, and there should be room for the free church to exercise itself freely in its own theological ministry. That gives us the theoretical side of the political position of Barth. Now we need to take a look at how that becomes very concrete in space and time. How does that become concrete? Because Barth always says that, number 1, we reflect doctrine off of Christology. Number 2, we leave the realm of abstract notions and enter the realm of concrete reality. So his hermeneutic is always reflected off Christology, and transitioning to the concrete. So let's move on to the second block. We're going to look at that concrete aspect. We begin by looking at the concrete parable type witness of the state. State is to guard humanity against chaos by providing space and time for proclamation, repentance, and faith. It has to provide room for the free church. It is to preserve the relative peace of the community, and it will provide provisional embodiment for the kingdom in an analogous way. This is why Barth vigorously opposed Hitler and the totalitarian government of the Nazis and their intention to create a state-type church. And that was forcefully opposed by Barth, which resulted in his being exiled out of Germany and loss of citizenship. And but because he was very firm on taking that stand, and that also constituted his split with liberalism, because the liberal theological representatives were not taking that stand against Hitler, which Barth affirmed needed to be done. That political ideology needed to be confronted and opposed. So the state is to provide freedom for the church, for its proclamation, for its repentance, and for its faith, and peace of community. So it kind of sets up a provisional embodiment of kingdom in an analogous way. And the church, the Christian community, is the reminder to the state of the deeper meaning of humanization. The church has a function of kind of like that inner conscience, the reminder of the deeper meaning of humanization. The church is the inner circle of humanization within the larger circle of secular society and culture. So parable witness by the state is enjoined by Christian political witness. And Barth gives 4 examples. There is the direction toward real human being and equal protection for all citizens, special consideration for weaker members like the handicapped, and support for the freedom of spheres like art and science. And so for his summary statement, parable witness and Christian directional witness both lead to the concept of fellow humanity. There is a continuity that will be a continuity of Christian application, and that is the reality of the covenant partnership with God. That is the continuity of political fellowship. It's the concept of covenant partnership with God. We live as beings in encounter. We gather together at the dialogue threshold of mutual seeing, mutual speaking, mutual hearing, mutual assistance. So on a practical level, we want to establish, discover, and maintain a political workspace for defining the common sphere of life, which is an intersubjective workspace. We mutually develop the matters of mutual help. We enter into a dialogue of the I-thou relationship. We mutually define the eschatological direction of political life and Christian life. So you can see that Barth has a very definitive practical position here. He takes up that Dekunta threshold, or that dialogue threshold. It's very much an interpenetrating mutual discovery of seeing, speaking, hearing, and assistance. So the very concrete triad looks like this. It is the state as parable witness and the church as political witness. The state provides space for the free church. The church is a reminder to the state of the deeper meaning of humanization that leads to a politics of fellow humanity where mutuality is practiced in defining our eschatological future. And that takes us to the third moment of the concept of human political work. So if you look at block 3, we begin with the affirmation for the criteria for correspondence to God's kingdom. There are 5 criteria. We are to be objectively aligned with the eschatological end of the kingdom. We are to posit that which is beneficial to humanization. We are to posit out of a disciplined self-consciousness. We are to be absent of tension within one's freedom for God. We are within that freedom for God. We are to posit the actualization of the concept of fellow humanity. This affirmation of correspondence is enjoined by the negation of injustice. Obviously, we enable the weak against the strong. We proclaim God's revolutionary righteousness. We posit kingdom come. We posit the concept of spirit kingdom come. And that leads us to the summary statement that the affirmation of correspondence and the negation of injustice lead to practical force and practical pacifism. Barth adopts a dialectical, practical phronesis, practical wisdom. War fueled by economic power must be opposed. The exercise of power actually is not a proper work of the state anyway. Any abstract notion of pacifism also must be negated because it authoritatively places itself against the possibilities of God's freedom and grace. God's freedom and grace is always prioritized for Barth, because it is just to defend a weaker nation against the threat of aggression, but any ideology of war as ordinary should be opposed, says Barth. Our efforts should be centered on peace through social democracy. So it's a dialectical hinge point for Barth between activism and pacifism, but abstract notions can't be taken up anyway because Barth demands Christological and concrete doctrine. Christological and concrete doctrine. Those are his two hermeneutical requirements. All doctrine is reflected off Christology. All doctrine must move out of abstract notion and into concrete practical phronesis. It is demanded by Barth that we must move out of theoretical gnosis and into practical phronesis and practical praxis to be authentic Christian doctrine. We can't remain hinged on the theoretical. But we've got a beautiful lesson here. I thought that Weapehowski did a great job on politics. I don't think it's the easiest thing to articulate in Barth, but I thought this was a great presentation because we get a very good picture and depiction of the theoretical triad of the witness of humanization, the witness of peace, then the affirmation of the prioritizing of Christ's word, and then that goal of common political life and room for the free church. And then I love his idea of concrete witness as parable and concrete witness as political Christian direction, which gives that deeper meaning to humanization, and then that concept of fellow humanity. And I just think it ends up being a very powerful and accurate depiction of the political position of Barth. So I give great credit to this essay, and it ran from 228 to 243. So we're going to be picking up next time on page 244.